This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity Podcast. We're joined today by one of our regular guests. We're joined by Liz Hutson. And Liz is brilliant. She's an engineer by background, ended up in the consulting business, just an absolutely brilliant person with great personal and intellectual skills. She's going to talk to us today about the critical concept of trying to stay young in thought, young in heart, and talk about that. Liz, why don't I tee you up and you take it away. Tell us what your thoughts are on trying to keep oneself thinking young and acting young. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is probably one of my most favorite topics to talk about. I'm really passionate about it. And I think we start with just what does that mean to be young at heart, right? I'm technically in my mid-40s, but when I'm at my best, in my heart, I like to think I'm 25 years old, sometimes even 7 years old. And when I think about that, I think of kids or even my own childhood, my mind goes to fun and whimsy and creativity and inspirations. Like we look at kids and they like to try new things with abandon, right? They don't worry about failure. They're unconcerned about what might happen because they don't know. They don't know, and so they're not inhibited by that. So I love that mindset. I think kids are curious. They wonder a lot about the world around them. They explore. They're tenacious to get those answers, and they ask questions like why and how a lot. And I think with that sense of fun and whimsical nature about the world, it just makes their hearts full and inspires creativity. And I just like the idea of even when I'm 90 years old, I hope I still have that kind of mindset of being young at heart, because I think great things come from that.
Saying when we talk about this young at heart concept, it ties so well into this concept of so many things are some level of trial and error, and so many people they're driven to be perfectionists. So they're sometimes a little bit scared of trial and error, and it takes that trying different things, work at different things to sort of figure out what works and what doesn't. I think it ties in nicely to this concept of young at heart. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, totally. I think that's one of the reasons that it's so important, besides just having fun in life when you have that youthful spirit. But I think a lot of times as we get older and we learn that not everything is going to work out positively, right? Sometimes we fail, and then that inhibits us from trying. But I think if we can channel that young spirit, I think we start to let go of the fear of failure. And with that, we're much more likely to try new things. We're much more likely to see what happens. Hey, not all of them are going to succeed, but some of them will. I tell my kids that all the time, right? If we don't try or if we don't ask, the answer is always going to be no. And I think when we can let go of that fear of failure, again, personally, but professionally too, that youthful entrepreneurial spirit leads to new business ideas, new companies that are created, new adventures that we take on, new product and services ideas, maybe a new client base that we're thinking about, a new market opportunity. But I think all of those start with that letting go of that fear of failure. That I think is when we are letting ourselves let go of some of those things. And again, I think we channel that much better when we have a young, whimsical spirit to us. We're more likely to try that. We don't carry the weight of the world on our shoulders, and we free ourselves up to experience more, and we feel fulfilled. And it's a much more inspiring thing for ourselves, but importantly to others as well.
And take a moment on recapturing that youthful spirit, that ability to try new things. Talk a little bit about what advice you could give people to try and recapture that feeling, that openness, that trial and error mentality. Talk about how do you do that?
Yeah, I think this is hard sometimes, especially as we get older and older. We start to conform to what everybody else looks like. We start to do things the way everybody else does things. We talk the same way. We dress the same way. We drive the same cars as those people, right? We just kind of we start to conform a little bit. And so I think one of the things that I am a big proponent of. I try to do this with my own life. I try to inspire this in my clients, in my team, in my kids, the people around me, is trying new things. So that might be a new work opportunity, right? You've been doing the same thing for a long time, maybe asking your manager for something new, something different that's going to challenge you, something that's a little bit different. It could be a new hobby. It could be, hey, once upon a time, as you said, Scott, I was an engineer by training. I stepped out and moved into marketing. And from there, I went into consulting. None of it was comfortable for me, right? But it was a new role. It was a new space. So I think that's the first thing is just trying new things. I think that helps us channel a young spirit, because a young person doesn't know everything. And when we set ourselves into new things, we are forced to be, a newbie, a young person in that way. And I think the other piece that's kind of part and parcel to that is just getting uncomfortable. Every single time we put ourselves into a new and uncomfortable situation, we learn. We're teaching our brains to innovate and come up with new ideas, new solutions. And I think again, that's pushing ourselves into that mindset of what would I do? How would I do that? How would I solve that problem? And the more we can be young at heart in that, I think the more we are successful in that. And then lastly, and this is probably my most favorite piece of advice in this, is to play. I think we've lost the art of playing as we get older. And I literally mean like play games, do an escape room. I love to do, physical games like a mud run. But I think being a kid forever, like I say, I hope I'm, 90 plus years old and still playing and still having fun and still laughing. My parents, who are in their 70s, still do that. They are young at heart, and I had great examples, and then continue to do so. I think life is just a lot more fun and interesting when we can channel our 5-year-old, 7-year-old selves. I think we're having more fun, and I think we're a lot more fun to be around. We're filled with creativity, new ideas. We inspire others, and it's totally contagious.
I mean, it's such a healthy perspective. Again, joining us today is Liz Hutson, the founder of EGH, absolutely brilliant engineer, marketer, consultant, works a lot with private equity-sponsored companies in their product development planning, the marketing, looking at how they go about things. Just a brilliant person. Liz, thank you so much for joining us again on the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast.
Thanks so much, Scott. So great to talk with you. Appreciate it.